Alright guys, welcome. My name is Halben. So in this video, I am going to teach you guys how you guys can build your team with the units that you like, with any kind of units, with any kind of roster that you have. So some people might be confused on the team building aspect of World Flipper because it is an actual complicated thing to understand at the early stage of the game. I am also kind of confused at the first time, because let's take a look at like PCam's guide right here. Like, how does he able to come up with, this unique teams that works really well and things like that? But if you guys don't have the units that PCam's actually recommended, then you have no other choice than to make your own team rather than copying someone's team, right? So in this video, I'm going to teach you guys just that, how you guys can create your team with the units that you like. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. Alright, so this is going to be a slightly longer videos because there's going to be a lot of things to be explained. But first things first, let's actually talk about this team that I've built right here at the bottom. So placement is really important in World Flipper. You can't willy-nilly just place any units like in any position in World Flipper. Why? Because in World Flipper, the units that you deploy is in line, right? So there's the first unit up top, the second unit in the middle, and the third unit in the back. So the first unit is going to be the one that is dealing the most damage, right? Because they are going to have the most contact with the enemies. The second one is going to be the one that is dealing the second most damage because the second spot is going to be having the second most contact with the enemies, while the third slot won't be having that much contact with the enemies. Therefore, at the first slot, you should have a huge damage dealer. The second slot is either a support that can reduce the enemy's resistance, or a sub damage dealer, like a second damage dealer, or something like a support that can also deal a really good amount of damage. Things like Ennis, like for example Ennis or Lunalu. For the third slot, you are going to slot in either a pure support or a tank. So for example, in this team, I actually put in Faf because Faf is a tank, right? So own fire resistance plus 12% while self-cast buff, take damage in place of other characters with fire resistance plus 80%. He's a tank, right? Because the third slot is actually not going to be having that much contact with the enemy. So you should put your tank at the back, sub damage dealer at the second slot, and then your most carrying damage dealer at the front. So that is the placement when it comes to team building. So the next thing that you should do is to choose a unit that you really like, that has a good leader buff and that can actually carry the team. So the unit needs to have a good leader buff, a good carrying potential, and also good damage, right? Because in the first slot, remember, you need a strong DPS or a strong leader buff that can compensate for probably the lack of damage they can deal. Okay, so in this case, I'll choose Alice. Alice is a water unit. She is really strong because of her leader buff right here. While water character's HP is at or above 80%, that character's attack plus 140%. So this is a really good buff in order to make a team that actually attacks a lot with their direct attack. This can be a power flip team, or this can be just a pure direct attack team, right? So let's take a look at her first ability. While all party members have float buff, own attack plus 50%. Keep that in mind. So the next candidate of the team needs to have a float buff, right? And while own HP is at or above 80%, own attack plus 55%. So the next candidate of the team needs either to be a healer or someone that can tank. The third ability right here, when self is healed, own attack plus 15%, max 90%. So that's kind of clear. We need a bunch of healers in this team. Alright, we need a bunch of healers. We need someone that can provide us with float, and we need someone that can actually buff our attack further. So let's start filling out our team, and let's get right into that. So in order to fill out your team, you guys need to have some decent knowledge of the character that actually exists in Wolf Flipper. Of course, this will come with time, but if you guys want to build your own team right now, I will provide a website called eliabot.herocoop.com. This is a good website to understand Wolf Flipper units in order to make your own team. They also have this party planner right here, which is also a really good feature on this website. So for the unit that actually can provide us with float buff for Alice is someone that is called Lanner in the water element. Lanner is a really good unit that provides us with float and penetration buff, right? A really good unit. But for his position, do we want to put him on the main slot or do you want to put him on the sub slot? The way you decide that is by looking at his main ability right here. So his main ability is that while combo count is at or above 15, own attack plus 100. This is not necessarily a bad ability, but this is a selfish ability. And we want Lanner to actually support Alice. We don't want Alice to be the supported one. You know what I mean? We want Lanner to actually support Alice. We want all of our units to actually support Alice in some sort of way. And Lanner main ability right here is so selfish. So that makes him a sub unit. We don't want to use him in the main unit because this is a really selfish ability. This is like a main carry ability right here. And our main carry is Alice, not Lanner. Alright, Alice is better at carrying the team than Lanner. So that makes Lanner a sub unit. So let's actually put him on the sub slot. Now, in order to decide on which sub slot do we put him in, we need to actually have a complete main unit that we are going to use first, right? But since we only have Alice for now, let's just put him on here, below Alice, right? Now, the next thing that Alice needs is a healer, right? A healer and a tank. So let's actually pick those units. In the water element, there is 3 healers. There's Regal, there is Urza, and there is Caillou. Now, this is just a matter of personal preference, but I like Caillou because she will provide us with more attack buff in the longer term of the game. While Regal right here is also a really good healer, but I mean, she is a 4-star, so she's kind of a little bit harder to get. So let's actually just use Caillou right here. Urza is not the best. I feel like Urza is the weakest out of them all. So yeah, let's just use Caillou. So remember when I said that support needs to be in the 3rd slot? So yeah, we are going to do that. So we are going to use Caillou in our 3rd slot. But here's the thing. There's also another good unit that can keep us with high health while not healing in the same time, right? So that unit is a tank. In the water element, there is a really good tank called Faf right here. Faf is a dragon, this little dragon right here. So he has a own fire resistance plus 12%, while also granting all combatant attack buff and fire resistant buff. This is a really good skill if you are fighting a fire element, but his main, like his main power doesn't come from this fire resistant buff thingy. So while self has buff, take damage in place of other characters with fire resistance plus 80%. So he can actually tank and absorb other units' damage, and this will keep our Alice HP high. But now we have a little bit of contradiction right here. Do we want to put Faf as a tank or Caillou as a support in the 3rd slot, right? So this is again a matter of personal preference. You can just put Caillou here, and then you can put something like Regal right here. This is also a pretty good like lineup. But me, I like using Faf as the third slot, and then I put Caillou right here, right? This is a really good third slot right here. Like Caillou and Faf in the third slot is actually pretty good, right? So now let's decide on the second slot, because the second slot is the only slot that is missing right here, and we need to look at someone that can actually deal decent damage, or a support that can also reduce the target's water resistance. And let's actually look for that kind of unit. Alright guys, so this is the team that I decided to show you guys. So this is called the Thunder Enemy team. Enemy means a team that actually relies on having low HP to buff their own damage, right? That is a pretty cool concept. That is why I am showing this team to you guys. Another team that also relies on this kind of mechanics is the Dark team that use Belcidia, but that team requires a 5-star. And in this video, I just want to show you guys that you guys can actually build a bunch of team without having a 5-star, right? So for you guys that doesn't have like a good reroll, don't be sad. There's a lot of team that you can build with. So Mino's skill right here is something like this, right? While own HP is at or below 50%, own attack plus 50%. Same thing with his main, like with her main skill right here. While own HP is at or below 50%, own attack plus 100%. And again, her leader buff, while own HP is at or below 50%, Thunder character's attack plus 105%, right? So we want someone that can lower our HP. So that is why I took a look at the Thunder, like the dark unit, not a Thunder unit, to be our sub slot in the our sub slot for Mino, right? So I decided to put Falche here because Falche self-receive damage, again, sacrifice 10% of max HP for skill gauge 100%. This is just, it's a match made in heaven for Mino, right? So I put Falche here, really good unit. Again, Lunalu and Bianca here is to further buff Mino. Again, we already talked about Lunalu before, right? This main skill right here, and also her paralysis debuff, her inflict thunder resistance down is also really good for Mino. Again, right? Further buffing the Mino's damage output. Next, we'll talk about Bianca. Bianca again, like this is why I use her right here. She is a top tier support. She can almost fit into a team that actually relies on debuffing the enemies. So like Thunder is a really good candidate for Bianca, right? So her ability right here, leader attack buff plus 25% and leader damage against debuff enemies plus 15%. That is enough reason to put Bianca here, just to further improve, right, the leader damage. Really good unit. Next is Shasusu. The reason why Shasusu is so good is because of her skill right here. Increase leader skill gauge by 30%. That will make Mino like just spams a lot of skills, right? And grant leader skill damage buff 120%. Come on, you can turn this down, right? And then this, when battle begins, own skill gauge plus 100% and leader attack plus 10%. She just makes your leader on steroids. So yeah, I mean, I don't have any reason to not put Shasusu here. Next is Posito. The reason why I put Posito here is not because of his float buff, but it's because of this buff right here. This buff is really good, right? Grant all combatants attack buff and skill damage buff. That is enough reason to put Posito here. Posito is a really good unit and you can get him for free. In the future, I'll probably make a video on how to get Posito, but yeah, probably tomorrow I'll show you guys some good free units. So yeah, that is it for today's video. This is a really good team that you guys can build. No 5-star needed. You guys will have a lot of fun with this team. Of course, this is not the best team, but it is a lot of fun to use this kind of team. And yeah, build your team, guys. Have fun, experience yourself the beauty of team building in World Flipper, and yeah, keep on experimenting. And as usual, goodbye, have a nice day, and keep playing gacha games.